Well, hello, 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 and welcome to the Psychic Funhouse, your favorite psychic show here on YouTube, and brought to you from the studios of Riverside. Welcome to the first August day, Friday. We are here. I am with you, and my associate is here as well. My name's Lawrence Birch, and my co host, the amazing and intrepid Adrian Stratton, is also in the co driver's seat with us. So we're happy to be
Hey,
here
Lawrence.
and looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Outstanding. Yes, indeed.
absolutely.
Did you have a
And
good week?
yeah, I had a very good week. Yes, uh,
Good.
things are going well in many different ways, and I am happy for that. So lucky me, lucky me. So yes, indeed. How about
Good.
yourself?
Yeah, it was a busy week. I had a lot going on, a lot of personal things to take care of, and I think that's kind of important to share because uh, you know, as a psychic, as a healer, as somebody who is very dedicated uh, to my life in service of other people, um, I still have to maintain a variety of really regular and normal events. I still have to pay rent. I still have to deal with the bank and taxes and all kinds of stuff like that. And so, so yes, that's the kind of stuff I was doing this past week, as well as helping some folks out with some readings and what have you. And but it was a busy week,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The day to day, you know, never ends. So there's always another bill to look forward to and another chore to do. But that's what keeps us invested. So,
Yeah,
hmm hmm
yeah.
yeah. Well, I
But
thought that would kind of be our topic of discussion for tonight's show, and we can broaden that out. But just relationships and love relationships, obviously, but also just maybe including our relationships to our friends and family and our environment, our pets, uh, you know,
yes.
things around us. So,
Yeah, so far, Rolo and Frida are being quiet, but they're due to make their nightly noise sound effects here anytime. So
yeah, well, they are the mascots for the show, so they
yeah, that's right.
contractually have to be included at some
Yeah,
point. Otherwise, well, they haven't fulfilled their contractual canine obligations. So, yeah, that's good. Yeah. So now you have two dogs, right? And
I do.
and one you acquired more recently, and the other one you've had for a bit longer. Can you talk about how
That's
you came to be a doggy parent? What was that process
oh
about? Have you
gosh,
always had dogs? Is that something you're always you've always been engaged with?
yeah,
Is the
I
canine
um
world or
I grew up with a German Shepherd, and his name was Eric, and and he was a lovely family member and lived a long time. Um, and I think that's where my love and appreciation for that breed of dog really developed. And I've had other animals, other pets. I've had horses. used to ride and show horses at one time, way back when.
Hmm.
And that's another,
Hmm.
horses are another significant love of my life. And, but yeah, yeah. So, um, I know many years ago now, I found myself in I found myself single. I found myself uh, still full of love and desire to have connection with another another living, breathing being. And and I wasn't too specific. Four legs were just fine. And so and so I ended up actually, when I first got into the rescue uh, world, the first
Hmm.
dog that I had was a boxer, and her name was
Hmm.
Gracious, and she was just a remarkable soul, really remarkable. She absolutely, positively loved energy work, and she would be just glued to me anytime that I was either receiving some help or giving some help. Sitting and meditating, she would lay there and be quiet and be still. She was just remarkable. And ever since
Hmm.
then, there's been, a few other dogs, but they've always been German Shepherds afterwards. That's, like I was saying, really my my dog, my dog. And yeah, so German Shepherds, I think are very close to wolves, which are uh, you know near and dear to me, my heart, my spirit. And so they're just always been a really good fit. And I've had a few of them. And each and every time, each one comes in, they all are different and bring, wonderful, unique energy and personality. And when each one leaves, it's just crushing. And always
Hmm.
challenging to get through. But I wouldn't have it any other way. A dear friend of
Hmm.
mine who's on the other side
Yeah.
now told me once that a broken heart, um, a broken heart happens only as a result of really being able to, well, as she put it, give a damn. and 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 that is true. I guess I would probably elaborate on that a little bit more, and simply say that broken heart exists, as we are able to have our feelings and our emotions and our humanness. And and grieving is never easy, but is so powerful and beautiful at the same time. So that's kind of a couple different topics there in the
Hmm.
same breath. But yeah, I love my dogs.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty maybe accurate isn't the most wholesome word I can think of, but um, you know, uh, what's the Shakespeare quote? It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Uh,
yeah,
it's a tough one though. I know uh, lots of you know four-legged and otherwise non-human parents who after experiencing that loss enough times they have to take a step back from the pet parade for a while because the separation is just too intense for them to go through
Yeah.
again, knowing that that's going to happen. Um, so takes a lot of courage, I think, to take on the responsibilities of being a pet parent and having to figure out how to communicate with them and make sure that they thrive and survive under your watchful care and
Yeah.
that they're given the attention they need. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. There's a saying, people I'm sure have seen it, on social media, Instagram, what have you. When it comes to rescuing an animal, it's like, who rescued who?
Hmm.
And I believe that, the animals in my life have taught me a variety of different things about, gosh, how to maintain a commitment, how to love deeply, um, you know, just a wide variety of different things, and really brought me, I think, out of my shell, um, or shell of some depression at one time or another, and they're remarkable that way. They really are.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people talk about the only reason they're still here and on this earth is because they have animal responsibilities.
Hmm.
Keeps them grounded and I think gives them a purpose sometimes when maybe they feel directionless or um, not in the best state of mind or emotional health. So it's understandable. Um, I have a kind of a interesting story that's coming to mind as we're talking that I think I'm going to share about a cat that I used to have when I was growing up. Uh, my family moved around quite a bit, pretty much every year, every other year. So I went to over a dozen different schools before I went to finished high school. Um, so the portable animal for me was a cat. So I had cats growing up, and wasn't until I was a teenager that I had a few dogs, which were really great, good companions. Um, but uh, this was maybe not quite 20 years ago, I guess. Somewhere,
Hmm.
maybe it was about 20 years ago. The town I was living in, a few streets up, there was a fire in an apartment complex, and the fire truck showed up. It was maybe 2 or 3 blocks up the street, and the smoke was pretty intense. So a lot of people in the neighborhood, myself included, ran up there to see if there was anything they could do to help. And apparently, the fire had started in a lint trap in a dryer that hadn't been cleaned out in a while, and it just got hot enough and dry enough that it caught fire and spread into the rest of the building. Um, Nobody human living there was hurt, but as I was standing there watching the fire truck show up and try to do their work, here came this cat out of the back of the building that had been exposed to the fire, and so its hair was all kind of semi
Oh,
melted, you know, and it
oh,
was yeah, it was clearly in distress, yowling and freaked out and singed pretty seriously. Its paws were kind of singed. So I scooped it up and tried to comfort it and took it back home. And I was kind of acquaintances with the owner of the building. She didn't live there, but she was somebody I knew through social circles. And eventually, she found out what was going on and showed up and was, obviously horrified and wanting to make sure everybody was okay. And then, uh, I got in touch with her about the kitty and who we were trying to foster and comfort, but was clearly, not doing well. And so she realized who the cat belonged to, and so she took it off of our hands and then took it to the vet. And you know, eventually, the vet determined that her um, injuries were really not sustainable, and so they had to end her life, unfortunately. Um, so this is kind of a sad. I'm sorry, this is kind of a sad downer story. But what I wanted to bring up was so I wanted to do a ritual to honor the cat's passing and to help escort it safely to whatever next uh, journey it was going to go on. So I did some psychopomp, which in the shamanic world is working with the dead, basically. And I've done this journey a few times for people, not that often for animals, but I felt really called to make sure that this animal soul was going to go to a a safe place. It was obviously really disoriented, stressed out, and in a lot of pain before it passed on. So I created a sacred space and then called on my helping spirits, and we went to find this cat and send it into the light and into a safe place. And I was able to do that, and I think it really was helpful and effective for the cat, and also for me as a practitioner, because it was really incredibly difficult to be involved in this whole process and to know that this cat was suffering, fortunately for a short time, but still. While that was happening, totally unbidden, my cat of about 16 years that I saw being born with her mother back when I was a teenager, uh, California, before I moved back up to Oregon. She had passed on about 2 years previously, and she showed up while I was performing the ritual and just wanted me to know how much she loved me and cared about me. And it was like she
Oh,
love bombed me and came up to me while I was doing the
oh,
journey and was just, hey, it's me. And she was the kind of cat that would when I was working up in the woods for a while and I was gone several days at a time. When I'd come back home, she'd literally see me and just run at me and sprint and jump into my arms, knowing I was gonna catch her. So she and I had a really strong bond, which was great.
wow.
Uh, Her name was Mira. So it was doing this act of service for another animal that I got my own healing out of it. Which is uh, so often what happens. I think when we do spiritual work on behalf of others, there's a healing that takes place for us as well. And it was just really nice to be in her company again and know that she was okay, and to get that kind of feedback,
How
and also,
lovely.
yeah, and also to make sure that this animal was taken care of, who'd been
Hmm.
hurt so
Hmm.
badly in the fire. So yeah,
Hmm.
but,
Oh, I love that. I love that story. I so appreciate you sharing that. It's because well, for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, uh, that's such a well, it's such an intimate kind of recollection to share, and our relationships with our animals are very intimate anyway and very special. And I just I just really appreciate that. And I know also a lot of clients from time to time have questions about their animals in the afterlife, and you know, will we ever see them again? Will they remember us? Will they, will we find them? Can they communicate? A wide variety of different questions, and so it's just wonderful that you shared that, really.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's good for people to know that, however difficult it may be to go through, and sometimes it can be, incredibly difficult for both the person who is transitioning and their loved ones,
Yeah,
whether they're a person or animal person. Um, you know, uh, Death is a doorway that we all eventually step through, um, and then then we're on the other side of whatever this experience is. But the relationships continue, and they can continue. They're just
yeah,
transformed. It doesn't mean that the
yes,
love is lost. It doesn't mean that the memories are gone, or that that person no longer has any meaning in your life,
hmm,
or animal.
hmm,
And so, there's ways to continue that relationship in a significant uh, format. Just
hmm,
with the understanding that the communication process is going to be a bit altered, and you may not have a day to day, and I don't know that you're really meant to have a day to day once somebody's passed on. They have other
right,
things that they need to do, and animals have their own journeys too and lives of their own. So, um, we had a back when we were on Blog Talk, we had an animal communicator come on, and they had some really wonderful stories to tell about different things, and and of course my co-host back then uh, was Michael, and
hmm,
Michael was an amazing and is an amazing animal lover, and he had a
hmm.
series of different animals, and he had cats that he took care of, like, and Michael went above and beyond, like he would mortgage his house if he felt like there was a chance to improve the lives of his cats. And so the animal communicator saw his cats that had passed on. He had a whole litter of them basically,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
they were all like, "Oh, it's Michael," and they came. I don't think he'd mind me sharing this story on his behalf, so because it's really sweet. And they came over and they anointed him and gave him a crown, which he, of course, translated into a tiara because he's a diva. And and uh, so I was forced to call him the cat queen for several episodes afterwards.
That's great.
You know, yeah.
That's great. I love that.
So that's one of
Hmm.
his many titles is cat queen, but some others. But
I love that. I
yeah,
love that. Hmm.
yeah, that the animal
Hmm.
communicator was never asked back on the show. So no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll have to have Amy Clugston back on the show as a guest.
mhm, mhm,
She's been on Blog Talk with us, and Amy is really talented pet pet communicator, and it's always
mhm,
interesting what
mhm.
you know what Amy shares with us, and what the pets or animals are talking about. And yeah, I will share this with you, as
Please do.
some of the as some of the listeners, and you, of course, Lawrence, know that um, back in January I lost my 14-year-old German Shepherd, Erica.
Mhm,
And Erica still comes around, and it's not all the time, but when she does, I mean, I definitely feel her presence. I've seen her a couple of times,
mhm,
and she used to every once in a while, like, and sometimes sometimes in the middle of the night, if she wanted to get my attention, um, she was a big dog, tall dog, and she would come around to my side of the bed and poke me with her cold, wet nose. And of course, I would jump and wake up. And anyhow,
Mhm.
that just happened a couple of nights ago. And, so it was like,
Oh. Mhm.
well, hello, Erica. I know you're here,
Mhm.
and I love you
Mhm.
too. So it's,
Yeah.
I think more than anything, kind of like what you were hitting on, it's the love doesn't go away. Love, uh, love love is ever present, whether we're on this side or the other side or wherever we may be. But love is consistent.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah. No, I think, it's something that, once generated, has a life of its own for sure.
mhm,
That kind of strong, caring, connected emotion. So, and I think that's a big part of why people have relationships with animals is,
yeah.
uh, they're different than relationships with humans, in,
Hmm.
you know, pretty
Hmm.
profound ways. Uh,
Hmm.
it's both easier, I think, and more challenging, than having a relationship with a human. Humans can be so difficult and you know mischievous and even devious, and contrary. But animals, there's a loyalty there that develops, and once you
Hmm.
you know have a bond with a critter, they tend to take that pretty close to their own hearts and rely on it and remind you about it. Like
Right.
like your doggy does. Like, hey, don't forget, I'm here. I need something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's the truth. Yeah.
Do you do you do you have many calls from your clients for animal communication? Is that something that you do offer?
I don't, I don't do it
Hmm.
myself on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Um,
Do they come up for you during
it
mediumship work at
does.
all?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. If I'm
Mhm.
certainly doing a, mediumship session and loved ones are present, and I will see the cat or the dog or the bird,
Mhm.
and I'll ask the client, oh well, did you have a brown and white dog, or tell me about, I see a parrot. I remember that one time you're doing a mediumship reading, and there was a very colorful parrot that uh, was on the other side with a loved one. And so, yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I get that, and I share it, and the pets will communicate, to some degree, and I'm happy to share that. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned uh, getting a shelter pet, and I think that's really important thing to um, promote as an option for people. Not to go and get an animal through one of the animal mills that are out there. Some breeders are really conscientious, and they
Hmm.
make sure that they're um, taking care of their animals, and they're healthy
Hmm.
and responsible in that way. But there's a lot
Hmm.
that aren't, and I think the latest thing that happened after the pandemic was people you know wanted some companionship when we were all isolating, and one of the ways that they went about doing that was to just acquire an animal, cat or a
Yeah.
dog, most commonly probably. And then, unfortunately, many of them, once the gates were opened and they could socialize again, decided that they didn't want to be taking care of this animal anymore. It had served its purpose, kind of like a piece of furniture, I think, to them, unfortunately.
I know. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the shelters were flooded with animals, and then of course, people being who they are stepped up to adopt many of them, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, some of them didn't find forever homes, unfortunately. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, my sister is a board member of a no kill animal shelter where she lives north of here,
Hmm.
and they get lots of pets that are dropped off, and sometimes pets that are taken from their owners when they're not being responsible, and somebody calls them out on it. So,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but that's if you are looking for a family pet or a an animal to foster, that can be a really great resource to look into. Providing a home to a pet that um, maybe has lost its original owner for whatever reason, or has
Mm-hmm.
lost its home and is looking for a second animal parent rather
Yeah.
than necessarily buying one. Uh, you know,
So
so.
true.
Mhm.
And it's also so important. I just want to mention that you give the pet an opportunity to decompress because the rescues, while they do a very good job, many of them, most of them, I'd like to think. The like with like with my dogs, they both of them have little quirks. And so you don't always know what their whole story has been. And you only find out, as time goes by and it reveals itself and you start interacting with them. But yeah, patience and training and giving them, a good long time to decompress and readjust. I think it's so important. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, my high school girlfriend, her family had a coy dog, a coyote dog named Mama Bear, and
Wow.
it took her a long time to warm up to me because they got her from a man who was probably unkind to her as a habit, and so she had a natural aversion after that to men and didn't trust him, didn't like being around him. But if I
Mm-hmm.
was around her for long enough, she'd eventually warm up to me and come over, and
Mm-hmm.
she'd accept some
Yeah.
TLC. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a it's an interesting thing how animals remember things and how they um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, have an ability to process things differently than humans do, and respond to
Mm-hmm.
them differently. I think that's part of what
Mm-hmm.
makes them so attractive in our lives, is that they have their own culture, so to speak, and
It's true.
relationship with us, um, that really gives us insight into both their lives and
Mm-hmm.
also our own. The other thing I would mention too is maybe you're not able to take on the long term day to day relationship with an animal, but you can do some short term fostering where you're a puppy or a cat parent for a while, uh, when shelter service needs that, or you can volunteer at a shelter, animal shelter, and
Yeah.
provide service that way, and also get maybe some of your needs to be around furry critters
Mm-hmm.
met for a while. That's always something. Most
Mm-hmm.
places are run by volunteers, or they're a big part of the organization, and so they're always looking for new people to come in and help. So that can be really fulfilling. So.
Yeah. Just love it. Yeah, I just
Mhm.
love it. for any of the listeners that may be tuning in now or uh, uh, have plans on listening to us later, Lawrence and I were chatting just before the show, and I made, like, this comment, half joking, but not completely, as we were going to be talking about relationships. And I told him that something about, at some point, uh, I really realized that the my dogs, this group of dogs or dogs prior to them, have been my primary relationships. And uh, and I don't and I was also saying that this morning when I got up, before I jumped out of bed, I was laying there, and it was like I have these two huge dogs and myself, and it's like, this is what it's come to. This is it. This is as good as it gets. And and Lawrence, I so appreciated what he said. And Lawrence's comment was, well, if you have dogs that really love you and you are loving the dogs, then that's really wonderful, and that's really powerful, and that's not bad. And you know what? And it's so true. It's like, I don't know what point, I decided that love relationships with other two-leggeds, um, were no longer part of my um, mm, living vision, you might say, while here on planet Earth. I'm not sure. There's probably a whole lot of reasons why that came about. Um, but nevertheless, it's like, yes, I have a wonderful relationship with myself. I have a wonderful relationship with, my guides and all that I work with. Um, but as far as, and my friends, I don't have a lot of friends, and it's because I choose to keep my circle small. But the friends that I have, I just love, and often feel that love that is reciprocated. And you know what? And that's enough. It's enough. I am fulfilled. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel like, oh gosh, I should be doing this, should have this person, should. I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. What I do feel is fulfilled. And maybe in more ways and in deeper ways than a love or romantic relationship. So I feel blessed, and I feel like relationships are important. Relationships are extremely important. Um, whether it's with dogs, cats, or your friends, because if you've got love in your life, you're blessed, you're
Hmm.
lucky, you're
Hmm.
doing a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good points that you're making, uh,
Mm,
Adrian. And it brings me back to a place of what's your relationship with yourself, right?
mhm.
Do you have a loving relationship first and foremost with yourself, at
Yeah,
least the majority of the time?
yeah,
Uh, you know, uh, and I guess, if I reflect back on my romantic relationships of any duration, what stands out for me about a lot of them is that they were um, challenging. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
I was challenged by the women that I had relationships with. Not all the
Hmm.
time, not every day, but you know, uh, there was a lot of growth that happened because of them, uh, which I'm grateful for and still appreciate to this day. However, in the moment when that growth was taking place, as one of my uh, relationship person was fond of saying, growth is painful. Um, it doesn't just happen passively. There's a process, and it often
Hmm.
requires you to stretch and change and slough off old ways of doing things and embrace new things, which, if you had a lot of trauma and chaos growing up, you're not always, looking forward to. You like the stability, you like things not, you know,
Right.
being too different all the time, because it brings up all this old stuff for me anyway. Obviously, that's who I'm talking about. Of this is this is changing. Now I have to anticipate something, you know, that I'm really not looking forward to coming next. What's it going to be? And then the catastrophe mind takes over, and you start imagining the worst case scenarios, and then you've already created this whole uh, vision in your mind, which has nothing to do with the outcome, but your energy has already been diverted into that, unfortunately. So, uh, apologies to all my past lovers for being that kind of a person, but um, I'd like to think I've changed somewhat. Thanks to them, and
Hmm.
thanks to deciding that that wasn't necessarily the best way of relating. But but ultimately, I think you have this relationship with yourself that's the eternal one, and um, how you decide to navigate that, I think, really uh, is how you impact anyone else that comes into your space, your life, whether it's transitory or medium or long term. Uh, and I think it's easy to not be mindful about that and just kind of let yourself get uh, taken by the current of events and different things, and not necessarily take charge of how you want to see yourself and how you want to be seen. Um,
Hmm.
and then you can end up pretty disappointed with the results, but really you're kind of responsible for that. Um, but it's different for everybody. Obviously, some people's lives are much more impactful in a larger sense, and some people lead quiet lives. Some of the lives are quiet lives of desperation, I guess. Uh, but that it's okay to have a very you know uh, life, I guess, that's focused on a few things rather than many things. I think that's kind of just naturally what happens as you get older for a lot of people too, is just
Hmm.
you know maintaining all these social relationships starts to get uh, more energy draining than it is energy giving, and people fall away from our lives, and we end up concentrating things down into more and more of an essence, and that becomes our primary relationship pattern. Um,
Hmm.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
noticing. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really right on. Um, without a doubt, without a doubt, an intimate, an intimate relationship with another person, like you said, it stretches you, and it's challenging, and I think that it is. um, perhaps the most challenging thing that we're called upon to do, certainly with others, is on a regular basis, um, take sometimes huge risk, in divulging how we're thinking, and certainly how we're feeling. And like you were saying, depending upon the family dynamics that you grew up in, it may be very, very easy to talk about what you think. Maybe very easy to do that, but almost impossible to talk about how you feel if you weren't encouraged to have feelings when you were a child, a youngster growing up, or if you were always taught that how you felt was wrong or insignificant, then there's a lot of blocks and a lot of complications that certainly exist. But it is very complicated, very challenging, and yet at the same time can be so rewarding. You know, so wonderfully rewarding, uh, especially when there's when the feelings are reciprocated, and the freedoms, to be yourself are reciprocated, and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy though. Not
Mm-hmm.
certainly not easy, and people sure spend a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to make things work, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with some success, and sometimes, it's healthier to recognize whatever the limitations are that your partner has or that you have, and dissolve things. Sometimes that's a healthier choice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not always easy, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's healthier. Um,
Yeah.
it's all interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And different beliefs that we bring into relationships about arguing. We're never supposed to argue. We're never supposed to get mad. We're never supposed to go to bed angry.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many different ideas that we come into relationships with, and some of them are great, and some of them are really uh, maybe not even your own real ideas or values, but they're your parents' values and ideas on what being healthy is. So I always think that, and I ask my clients this from time to time, once we have already like explored, family, childhood kinds of dynamics and beliefs and what have you. And I will refer people out for therapy, couples counseling, marriage counseling,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's great. I think that for a lot of people, being in a safe place to be able to talk and to trust that they're going to be heard, is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Well, communication is the the energy that runs a relationship, and
Mhm.
so many people uh, don't really understand the person they're with, what their language is, what they mean when they say what they say. I learned from my ex that communication is um, it's really inaccurate. These words that we say are all symbolic, and they mean whatever we want them to mean. Uh, you know, and some people mean one thing when they say, a word, and other people receive it completely differently, and because they have a different meaning. And
Right.
uh, you know, uh, and you can't not communicate. We're always communicating. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's always some information you're giving out, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that is going out into the universe, and if you're in a relationship, somebody's there to receive it. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it can take a long time just to figure out how to understand the person you're with. Uh, what their language is, what they're saying when they are talking to you, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and how
Mm-hmm.
to interpret that in a way that is respectful and receiving,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
not necessarily, giving up your energy or giving up your power or turning the process into a struggle, uh, or an accommodation. Uh, and I think that's a place where a lot of relationships stumble right out of the gate, is they begin with a lot of assumptions, and then
Yes.
none of those assumptions get challenged by either party, and so they just sort of exist in the relationship in this kind of, floating landmine that eventually,
Mm-hmm.
runs into an object and blows up, and then people are shocked about how they ended up in such a, you know damaged place with each other. But if you trace their story back, it's because, sometimes in part, uh, they didn't take the time, either because they didn't know how or didn't realize the importance of it, to really have clarity, uh, along the way somewhere, about what this relationship was about for each person, and why they were there in the first place, and what's making them stick around. And
Yeah.
you know the other thing you said, about dissolving a relationship, I think for a lot of cultures around the world, partnering with somebody, uh, you know uh, was meant to be lifelong, and something that was, happened once, and that was it. And
Mm-hmm.
separating that relationship was rarely, if ever, done, and it was made very complicated to do so, on purpose, so that, once you're in the relationship, you're going to be there for a while. And that, at least in the Western part of the world, changed. You know, started to change in the '60s, but especially in the '70s. And most of the Western cultures were and still are patriarchal in nature, and so
Mm-hmm.
the benefit, uh, of having the ability to separate from your spouse, or even divorce your spouse, uh, really started to equalize the playing field between, initially heterosexual relationships, and now, well, there's change going on, but in non-heterosexual relationships as well. Uh, and there's a movement to change that, to make it, uh, you know, some states are considering taking away no fault divorces, where you don't have to necessarily come up with a reason to blame the other person or sue them for divorce, which is what is the case in I'm pretty sure all states at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention
Mm-hmm.
behind that isn't to be helpful. It's to be imposing another type of belief system, which is, in their minds, religious based, upon society, because they see that, you know it's a dangerous thing to be able to empower people, and I would say predominantly it's targeted at women, uh, to be able to be independent, to leave relationships, or just not be in a relationship, right?
Right.
Like you were talking about, there's plenty of people, men and women included, who, and non-binary, if we're going to include, widen the net to people with different gender beliefs and lifestyles, to have a life that is, you know, largely independent and solo. And I think
Hmm.
that for some people freaks them out to no end. And even though it has
Oh, yes.
no bearing on their relationship, doesn't affect
No.
them in any way whatsoever
Hmm.
directly, they feel incumbent upon themselves to insert themselves into another person's lifestyle and go beyond making comments about it to try to affect it in some shape or way. And that is just
Hmm.
plain wrong and should
Yeah,
stop.
I agree.
This is none of their
Hmm.
business,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, you know, it's just a different way of expressing, uh, you know, their desires and interests. And if that's how they want to do it, and they're not hurting anybody,
right.
you know, which they aren't, uh, then get the fuck out already. Go do something productive with your life, you know? Jesus. So,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
but here we are.
It's it's certainly very interesting. Certainly very interesting.
It
And
is.
um and I think as humans continue to evolve, uh,
We hope.
consciousness continues to evolve. Um, I'd like to think that the mind begins to expand, and that it all that in that expansion that also includes thinking outside the box in terms of how we treat one another and um, how we love one another, and we stop making incredible judgments, you know, um, so unnecessary. But it's about power and control, and that's a much bigger issue, and that
Yeah.
is that is still a theme, sadly, in relationships.
Hmm.
But uh, I'd like to say that it's gotten better. We're in the year 2025. I'd like to say that it's gotten better and that the power dynamics are more equal, become more equalized. Um, I don't, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that thought, though. I just don't. I don't think so. I think that there's still a lot of abuse going on, in the name of tradition or traditional, and we still have a long way to go.
I think we've entered into a very reactionary, paternalistic time, you know,
Hmm.
where people with rigid belief systems and dogmatic ways of looking at relationships, to whatever, not just interpersonal, but relationships to spirit, relationships to our environment,
Yeah.
to animals, flora, fauna, what have you, uh,
Hmm.
is really uh, not about making progress on things, but halting and even reversing the progress that we have made. Uh,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of fear behind this. And when you make people afraid, you know, classically they're much easier to manipulate. And if you encourage them to hate, they're also easier to influence and can be used as a weapon against
Hmm.
beliefs or even groups of people who hold
Yeah.
beliefs that you don't agree with. And so, there's this constant sowing of division going on, at least in the United States, unfortunately, in
Hmm.
order to, you know, just divide and conquer. And a lot of people are
Yeah,
falling for it
yeah,
and even embracing it
a lot.
and promoting it.
Hmm.
And it's really, really damaging. It's damaging
Hmm.
to the society in general, and it's damaging to the people that are promoting it. The idea that the oppressor is really the one who's the most oppressed.
Yeah.
And it needs to really stop. It's not okay. It's never been okay. And
Hmm.
uh and it's just a toxic soup of uh unnecessary unkindness, when what we really need right now is clear thinking, critical thinking,
Hmm.
and kindness. We need to, figure out ways to reinvest in each other and support each other, because there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that really isn't getting addressed and is getting ignored and shoved to the side, that's starting to bite us in more than just the proverbial behind. It's really you know dire. And the longer we go around, having to tolerate these idiocies, the less time and energy we have to really take care of some things that um, are long overdue, and are really going to impact our ability to, just plain survive. Not to mention
Yeah,
every other
it's
creature on the
true.
planet.
All
Yeah.
one has to do is pay attention, listen to the news periodically, and there's another shooting somewhere, random shooting, and
Hmm.
killing, in all kinds of public places. And yes, to
Hmm.
some degree, that has always gone on. However, I do believe that it's a consequence of what's happening in society today, and the fear that's being fed to the masses, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to it's hard to it's hard to watch. It's hard to um, participate in society when you see so much turbulence. But those of us that work with others, we're called upon to do the best that we can to try to provide some healing, some stabilization, some warmth, and some compassion. And it's tough. It's tough for everybody right now.
Hmm. Yeah, and I guess the place that I land on um, frequently almost none of it's necessary. It's mostly
Yeah,
manufactured.
yeah,
The outrages and the upset, and
agreed.
it's all, it's all part of this grievance culture that's become accepted, and a way to make money and have power and control, and it's like the worst side of humanity. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, Main stage now that people are buying season tickets for, and lining up outside the
yeah,
Look at Me theater or whatever it's called.
yeah.
But you know, since we are, running a little over the show, um, and we started off in a really good place talking about our relationships, our wonderful and many and varied relationships with animals.
Yes.
Look what happened, right? So we proved
Oh,
we proved our theory, right? The first
yeah.
half of the show, animals, was great. There was all these really lovely, meaningful, heartfelt stories, and then we had to screw it up by talking about our relationships with these hairy
People.
apes.
Yes.
And where did we end up? In a really dark hole. Shocker. That
Well,
was
let
no
me let
accident.
me wrap it. Let me begin a wrap up here and share
Please
with you.
put the
Yes,
gold
share.
foil. Put the gold foil on the turd. Wrap
share
it up.
with you, share with all of you that I am so happy to report that here we
Hmm.
are at the end of the show, and Rolo Stratton and Frida Stratton are nice
Behave
and
themselves.
quiet
They
and
did.
relaxed,
Shocker.
and did not make any significant noise during the show.
That's because
So
they knew we
you
were
know,
talking about them. They knew the subject was
that's
animals, and they're like,
probably the truth.
for that one,
It may
we
all
can behave ourselves.
yeah, it may have also helped that their tummies are full. So
Ah, smart.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
smart.
So,
Yes. Sedate them through food. Yeah. What we
yeah.
forgot to do was do our we got so involved in the conversation we forgot to give our contact information
Oh,
and our
yeah, let's
disclaimer
do
at the
that.
beginning of the show, which I don't
Yeah,
know that that's ever happened.
yeah.
So maybe we should do that now.
All
Let
right,
let people
let's
know
do that.
how they can get in touch with you after the show,
Okay.
Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do private readings, in person, Zoom, telephone calls, and probably the best way to learn more about the services that I can provide is to go to my website, which is ravenmessages.com. You can call me or send me a text and I'll respond at 714 376 7289. Also, if you're in the LA Hollywood area, on August the 19th, I'll be doing an event at the One Hotel in West Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, and should be an interesting evening, a lot of fun. We're going to be doing speed readings,
Hmm.
so there's everybody gets 10 minutes, and I
Nice.
believe, yeah, I don't have the fact sheet right in front of me right now, but the fee is actually pretty reasonable. And
Hmm.
you can call me for more information.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you, Lawrence? How do they find you?
How do they find me? They find me obnoxious, obsequious, and overbearing. No. Well, you can call or text me at 541-344-7534. I'm shamanic practitioner, so I do shamanic work. I'm a certified clinical herbalist, so I work with plants for healing, and I also do psychic readings and work with the tarot. So you have those things to come and see me about if you're interested. My website's givingtreefarm.com. My email is givingtree@earthlink.net. And my Facebook page is Giving Tree Farm Herbs. So that's the
Wonderful.
connection. And in case anybody hasn't figured it out by the end of the show, we're here for entertainment purposes only. So we don't provide financial, legal, ethnological, um, well, astrological. Sometimes that creeps in. Astronomical, occasionally.
Yeah, that too.
But for a professional viewpoint, you should see a professional in those fields, uh, and then come back and enjoy our show as you did
Yeah.
so well tonight. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, wow. Time sure went by fast, Lawrence. Thank
How
you
does it
for
do
a
that?
great topic and
Yeah.
wonderful conversation.
As always, my friend. As
Yes.
always, yes. I'm uh, I'm always feeling blessed after our show and chance to bask in your wisdom and just sweet positive energy. So gratitude
Thank you.
for you,
Thank
gratitude to the
you.
spirits, and of course our lovely audience for
Yes,
taking
indeed.
taking time out of their busy schedule to enjoy heartfelt conversation among a couple crazy psychics and
Yeah.
chance to learn something and contribute. So hopefully people will come back and subscribe. We've got
Yep.
a handful of subscribers. We're looking to get more. So hit
Yep.
the subscribe button
Tell a
so you don't miss
friend.
a show. Please do. And we're here every Friday from 6 to 7.
Yep.
Uh, so we want you to be here too. And we've got lots of shows in the archive on the Psychic Funhouse channel to take a look at if you need your fix in between our live shows.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Adrienne, I'm going to let you take us out. So you're in
Yeah.
charge of that. Yeah.
Just just blessings to everyone, and uh, my most heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for the energy that goes, the creative energy that goes into each and every show, and the love and support of the guides and all that we work with, and that's that. And just I look forward. We look forward to our very next show. And by all means, we do accept donations. Love donations. Oh God, yeah. That's it.
All right.
Oh,
Well, with that excellent send off, we will leave everybody to their own devices.
yeah.
Have a lovely
Bye.
weekend. All right. Thanks again,
Okay.
my friend.
All
We'll
right.
be in
Bye,
touch.
Lawrence. Thank you.
All right. So long for now, everybody.
Yeah.